Hello, everyone, and welcome back to oNiD Community Racing. We're here for our Sim Hound Academy Cup. We're here round four, or not round four, sorry, round three, having skipped a week with some technical issues. We're here at the wonderful high-speed track of Silverstone in the UK, the latest track to be added to the Mon Ultimate. So it'll be a new challenge for some of our academy drivers. Certainly a challenging track to get up to speed. I love high speed corners that require precision, which can be a bit difficult with just high speed. They are certainly cups, very difficult to know when exactly to turn in, not to run wide. The track limit's very punishing around here if you do so. In the championship, as we are 2 rounds in, one drop round is being applied, so we kind of just see what everyone's best results are at the moment. Daniel Johansson and Max Farrell both taking a win in our opening 2 rounds in the LMP3 class. Meanwhile, it's Hosvet Nazarian and Oliver Knowles who have taken wins in the GT3 class. And then taking seconds has been Kovacs and Webb in the LMP3s, Craig Foreman and Menlaw in the GT3s. But we should see the standings mix up a little bit more through this round when we get sort of a second actual point scoring round in. It'll be interesting to see who finds themselves near the tops and who's maybe struggling a little bit more. We're about to get into qualifying now, but joining me alongside, just as last week, it is Tyler Hammer. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing well. Very excited to be here. Very excited to witness Silverstone again. It's always a super fun track, especially for people that are new, stuff like that. There's a lot of complicated corners, a lot of complicated straights, like complicated corners leading into straights. It's great for them.
Yeah, we'll jump on board with Daniel Johansson, winner last time out at a very tricky and very soaking Portimao. Swings the car into Cup's corner, doesn't run too wide on the exit. Of course, these drivers with the tire warmers already up to full speed. Now flinging the car through maggots and back. It's such a wonderful section with the warm tires. Not running too wide on the exit earlier. One good exit. Carry all speed up to Stowe Corner. See first sector time 27.2. We'll see how that compares once a few more people have been through the first sector. Stowe Corner, long right-hander. Can sort of take a couple of different lines here. Careful not to run wide again on the exit. Bit of a shorter run to Vale Chicane. I'd say the trickiest braking zone of this track. Very easy to lock the rear, especially over the slight little crest. Don't go in too deep as you won't get a good exit. Keep it flat out through Club Corner as you now make the run to Abbey. Turn one of the in the F1 now when using the wing circuit. Not quite flat out in the LMP3s. But if you take the line right, can hold it flat through Farm Corner, then heavy braking into Village, another tricky braking zone. Again, don't run too wide. You want to set up loop a long, tight corner. It is a bit awkward, difficult on traction, but very important traction zone. As you know, I've got the long flat-out run through entry towards Brooklands as you head down the Wellington straight now. 33.0. Webb is the fastest car through the first sector by a couple of tenths so far over everyone else, and is the fastest through the middle sector by at least 3 tenths. Harrison Webb looking to be the second quickest through everyone on their opening laps. Now through long right-hander, Fluffield on the exit again. Another important corner to get a good exit, not just to finish your kind of lap, but to start your next lap. Cross line, then a 153.634 is the opening benchmark. Let's see how close Harrison Webb can be. A few tenths off in the opening sectors.
53 is a fantastic lap runner. Johansson's really putting a show on for us. I believe in the GT3 class, it was Hosvet had the quickest first sector, but then Law had the quickest second sector. But it looks like Hosvet has taken the lead there for the time being.
Yeah, we're
Very close between. Ooh, Anderson's very close too. Under a second between the top three. Under 5 tenths actually.
Yeah, let's just see here what our top five are like. So yeah, Anderson just within a quarter of a second. GT3's taking a little bit more time to get round for their opening laps. Hunter coming up to the line now. Will slot into P4, 1.2 seconds off the top, and immediately pulling over to start a new flying lap. So obviously thinking the tire's not quite going to be good enough for a second flying lap. But we'll have to see if that's the case. Let's go to Daniel Johansson, who's run in a little bit too deep into Village Corner, spins the car around, is going to carry on, which I'm surprised by. Will have hurt the tyres. 2 times tyre wear, 2 times fuel usage as well this evening in the series. So spins like that will be very costly, especially at the high-speed nature of Silverstone. Going to be quite a lot of tyre wear as there is normally. But was a couple attempts up on that lap, so shame for them to lose it. Let's look at Harrison Webb on 2 personal bests, but still losing out a few tenths to Johansson so far.
Yeah, tire wear around here is really going to be a factor, especially on that front left. Front left's going to take a lot of abuse around here because of the nature of this circuit. Might see some tire changes. May not. Well, obviously we're going to see some tire changes. Well, actually, what I mean to say is we might see some tire changes in LMP3 for once. Even with how durable the tires are, that heat generated is going to really wear that front left tire to the point where you might have to think about changing it.
So Harrison Webb up to the line, improves by a tenth. Let's say Adisa Carpenter also improves up to P3, just within a second of the top 10, couple of tenths behind Harrison Webb. Meanwhile, in GT3, Ben Law is now on provisional pole. Brian Anderson, about to come up to the line, not improving on that lap. Let's see Chris Wack. Matt Hagan. Try and click on here. Very close to the fastest time in Sector 1. Losing a bit of time. 8 tenths in the middle sector, so struggling quite a bit there. They're currently 1.9 seconds off the top time from Ben Law. Let's see if they can get any closer here as they come through. Woodcock up to the line now. And I'll be into P5. 9 tenths off, half second up to Brian Anderson. Craig Foreman on a lap as well, just saying at the bottom end for the top 10. How will their lap go? They'll bump themselves up to P7, 1.5 seconds off of Ben Law.
Hanson's got 2 purple sectors again. He's really pushing, trying to get. I think he's trying to get to the 52s, the maniac. He's really trying to make sure that his lead is hard to beat. Oh, and he's lost it. He might be trying a little bit too hard now.
Does have that 7/10 margin in provisional pole, so maybe can take a little bit of risk. Kovacs just coming across the line and improving to 54.6 to put themselves in P4. Let's see if anyone else is on improving. Let's see Matthias Fuskin improving in the first sector, losing a bit of time in the middle sector, just sitting out of the top 5 at the moment. Can they find enough of an improvement to get in front of Max Farrell? That is the question for them. They're up to the line now. Doesn't improve. Had a mistake in that final sector. Let's see Max Farrell, a similar story for them. Gaining time in the first sector, losing a bit of time in the middle sector. Let's see what they can do through the final sector. Swing it into the long right-hander of Duffield. Careful not to get rear end stepping out as Johansson did, ruining their lap. Let's just flat out run to the line, take the shortest distance through Woodcock. And does improve, though still sits in P5, though has put a little bit of margin. An extra tenth between them and Fuskin, keeps it within track limits as they start their next flying lap.
Ozup's improving the sector only by a little bit, but it's enough to give him some confidence going into the next sector. Is anyone else improving in GT3? Let's see here.
Well, it is a purple first sector, so we'll just keep an eye. Needs to find just by a quarter of a second if they want to get up to provisional pole, but it's the middle sector where they're struggling. Still personal best, but 4.5 tenths off of Ben Law. That puts them 3.5 tenths behind. Can they find the time in the final sector? Into Village Corner. One of the trickier corners is mentioned of the track and the loop as well. Very easy to just run it in a little too deep with how tight the corner is. And then compromise your exit down the Wellington Straight now. 2 corners to go. The tricky braking zone of Brooklands. Luckily, these GT3 cars ABS help them stop blocking that front left as they pitch the car in, jumps over the anti-cut curbs on the inside a little bit. Now into Luffield. Oh, right-hander. Pick up the throttle as soon as you dare. The car twitching a little bit, and Nazarian not thinking they're improving enough. Maybe practicing a pit entry, but comes to a stop before they get to that line. Let's go to Max Farrell, who's improving. They're about 4/10 down on Johansson's time at the moment. That could potentially put them into second place, which would be a big jump up from where they are currently 2.2 seconds off. Now, across the line, it is an improvement, but still only P5. 1.1 seconds off now. They found a good second. Needs another 10th to get themselves up ahead of Kovacs.
Really close battles here. Also, you know, even in both classes this time around, it's supposed to usually what we had last week with the wet, you know, people had, you know, their paces and stuff, but it seems like with the dry, everyone's bringing it now, and they're more comfortable.
Following Chris Wacker now, sitting P8 within that GT3 field, 1.8 seconds off the top times. Needs to find 4/10 if they want to put themselves in front of Kevin Hunter. Into the final corners now. You can see braking quite late, not using all the full track width on the exit, trying to open up Luffield a little bit, sort of a bit of a later apex, trying to straighten the exit, help themselves get some traction with the run to the line. Will this be an improvement then for Chris Wacker? It is up to P6, missing out on Matt Hagan by 1,000th of a second. Just needs a fraction bit more time to get themselves up to P5. Let's see if we have any. It looks like Tom Watson is on a bit of a better lap here. Improving in the first sector, though no middle sector time in, so I think Tom Watson might have invalidated potentially at Stowe Corner in the middle sector.
Judging by these lap times, we're going to have a really good race on our hands. Everyone's really close together.
Yeah, a few drivers in the pits thinking they can't improve too much. Let's go to Craig Foreman. Not improving on this lap as they try and bump themselves back in front of Chris Wacker and Matt Hagan. They're very close just in front. But it does look like now drivers struggling to find those improvements. They've had a sort of got a good lap in at the start of the session, just struggling to find the time, maybe overdriving a little bit, trying to find it. As there aren't many improvements up and down the grid. So we'll just watch Craig through the final couple of corners. He's actually going to pull over before he gets to the line. Let's go back to Tom Watson, who's had another good opening sector. A little bit quicker, not 10th quicker than the previous lap that they invalidated. Let's see if they can keep it clean this time. It looked like they were on the track on the exit of Stowe Corner. 9-3 Club Corner. About half of the lap still to go. And yeah, another personal best in the middle sector, using all of the curb on the entry to Abbey Corner, swing the car in, opening up Farm Curve just a little bit, which can help you with the line, and braking into Village Corner. Turns in maybe a little bit too early, had to turn out of the corner, and that's unsettled the car through Village, put them a little bit wide, and then on a tight line for the entry to the loop. Will have cost them a little bit as they now head on to entry onto the Wellington Straight. Session is coming to a close, so they'll only get one more lap in if they have the fuel on board. Three left-hander again, giving themselves a bit of room to open up the field quite wide on the early part of the corner, just to give themselves a better line, a straighter exit through the field. Needs a few tenths here to jump up some positions cross line, and it will be up into P6. 1.4 seconds off top time, a third of a second off of Max Farrell's time in P5. Let's see if we have any more improvements. Ollie Knowles made a good first sector, but made a mistake in the middle sector. And that will be their qualifying session done as the time is running out. Ben Law, not on personal bests, but the time's not too far away. See if they can try and close in a bit on Nazarian in front. But in fact, there's actually people going a little bit better behind. Chris Wacker, personal bests, just needs 1,000th of a second to get in front of Matt Hagan. We need half a second to get in front of Brian J. Anderson. Can they find the time to give them the inside of the third row in GT3? Might not sound like a big deal, but here at Silverstone, it actually is. Having the inside to Woodcock gives you about an extra car length on the grid formation, cutting quite a lot of the curb there through Woodcock, and I think might have, yes, they invalidated that lap time. So unfortunately, will not be able to get that improvement that was looking likely through the first couple of sectors. Harrison Webb, looking to be on a good lap here, has found nearly 2/10 on Johansson's time, just needs to keep it together through the final sector.
This is going to be close. Very close. One more corner left to go. He's pulling it through. Taking a little bit wider line, but she can better exit it. Kept it together. Now just needs to make sure. Let's see where he comes. He's taking it. He's taking pole in the dying moment of qualifying.
By 300ths of a second.
300ths. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that is just about us, actually. Matt Hagan has just returned to the pits. So, yeah, that is our qualifying session done. So we can we will be able to see in a short moment when session ticks over our full starting order. While we wait, thank you very much, Dave Wood, for the 22nd month of subscription. Dave, one of our admins, well, recently stepping down, take some time to themselves, but certainly a big help to oNiD this year. It is great to have your support, not just in your time and effort, but also with your subscription for coming up to 2 years. It'll be 2 years come start next year, which will be great to have. Meanwhile, we're about to get ready for start of the race. Tyler, how about you take us through the starting order for Silverstone?
All right. So, starting on in P1 with a fantastic lap at the end of qualifying is Harrison Webb, and then Daniel Johansson behind him, followed by Dusa Carpenter and Janice Kovacs. Then Max Farrell and Tom Watson. And on row 4, Matt Barnaby and Matthias Fuchsen. That's a good lap from Fuchsen. He was struggling a bit on last race, I know that, so he'll have some confidence coming in. Alex Wood follows him, and then Matt behind them. Dan Stevens, and then Jarrett Page. Benji Beams and Dean Smith. And then I believe these are 2 people that didn't actually... Ethel's a coach, obviously, and then Vixen has not turned up. Starting in GT3 pole, Hotspot Nazarian, and followed by Ben Law. All I know is behind them, followed by Brian Anderson. We have Matt Hagan and Chris Wacker. Craig Foreman and Kev Hunter. And Christian Slink and Chris List. Ryan Davis and Emilio Jackman. Fiona Grasner and Kevin Lenzen. I think that rounds this out. And we're on the information lap. We're just now. A little bit of catch up. Second place is there, it looks like.
Yeah, the annoying thing is, it's by this point that everyone is told to stick to 60 kilometers per hour. Of course, those on the inside line for Woodcock here have a slightly shorter distance. And look at that on the outside. Johansson is almost down. It's going to be starting practically on the second row. We get the green flag here, and it's a good start from Medusa Carpenter, who's already looking to the inside of Harrison Webb, but is maybe just going to decide against it as they head down. It's 3 wide into Copse Corner as Max Farrell has had a really good launch as well. Gets to the inside and will take second place. Medusa Carpenter getting boxed in a little bit, loses out and falls down to nearly 4th place. Is challenging on the inside to Maggots and Beckett's on Johansson. It's now around the outside of the left-hander. Will give the inside for this final part here. Johansson carrying the momentum on the outside as they bang wheels just a little bit, and will carry on side by side on the run up to Stowe. Medusa will be on the inside, and then as Johansson, the timing tar sorting itself out a little bit at the moment through the long right-hander, hanging it round the outside, and on the inside, I believe that is Johansson, actually. Johansson is
Still
had
in the
an
pits.
issue.
Seems, yeah. Check.
Game crash for Johansson, unfortunately. They should be, as it's a game crash, they should be able to rejoin. But very frustrating for them, having been second on the grid. But as we see, that is Medusa Carpenter fighting with, trying to tell which one of the LMP3 seats.
That's Tom Watson behind.
Yes, Tom Watson in the oNiD delivery. Up to P5, good start for them. Medusa Carpenter, unfortunately, just sort of getting boxed in as we have a spin. That, I believe, was Kovacs that has spun through Brooklands. It's now dropping down the GT3 fields that are coming through.
It's so early in the race. Having a spin like that, you gotta wait behind the queue, unfortunately. It's always frustrating.
Yeah, try and find it.
Johansson is out on track now.
Yeah, unfortunately is a lap down as well. Benji Beams coming through fighting with Ben Myatt, just falling in behind. But not much of a fight there as Benji Beams does have a penalty. I believe that would be off the start. Meanwhile, the GT3's Hozep Nazarian in the lead with Ollie Knowles and Ben Law fighting in second. Matt Hagan in fourth. Brian J. Anderson in P5 at the moment.
Farrell's up 3 position. Matt Barnby is actually up 3 positions. Didn't even notice that. Look at that. And then...
And the LMP3 class has had a good start.
Emil and Fiona have both jumped up 4 places also. It's a good start for them too.
Might have had an incident on lap 1. Potentially. Do have a replay that we might check in a moment. As we see this battle, Brian Anderson trying to find a way past Matt Hagan, not able to at this early stage. But also noticed, got a couple of LMP3s which are struggling. As mentioned, not much of a pace difference between the P3s and the GT3s. So those are maybe struggling with the track. Might find themselves sort of in amongst the LMP, the GT3 field. Certainly seems to be the case for a couple of our drivers here, especially Kovacs that had that spin at the end of the opening lap.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially with the small pace differential. You really got to pick and choose your battles trying to get through these GT3s. So your race is already, I don't want to say ruined, obviously, but it's definitely, you're on the back foot, and you don't want to ruin any of the other GT races trying to get through.
Brian having a per run through, Craig there having a per run through Copse Corner. as Benji Beams comes into the pits to serve that penalty. P3's trying to make use of being a bit lighter to make their way around through the Maggots and Beckets. But let's just have a quick look back to the LMP3. Sedusa Carpenter trying to chase down Max Farrell. That's just Edusa, though, invalidating their previous lap. Quite a few invalidations, actually, up and down the grid. It's going to be something to keep an eye on, especially that exit of Cobb's Corner. As we were talking before stream, it's very punishing if you run just even a little bit wide there. You can very quickly pick up the track limit points and find yourself with a penalty. We'll just have another look at those positions gained and lost. Most people gaining out, of course, the unfortunate game crash for Johansson. Kovac's spinning as well has helped everyone jump up a little bit. But yeah, a few people jumping up a little bit more. Barnby being one of them. Alex Wood having a good start, as well as Beams, despite the penalty that they've had.
Yeah, having the penalty and still being up 4 positions. I mean, you kind of sit there and go, oh, no, I got a penalty, but you're still doing pretty well being up 4 positions. So give them a little bit of confidence, hopefully.
Back to the GT3 class, as Craig Foreman here trying to catch up to Chris Wacker. Beams hadn't taken their penalty. They're taking it just now. So I think they might have had an issue that first time. But yeah, that'll unfortunately drop them behind the GT3 field and make it give them a lot of struggles. Very punishing, especially when there's that little pace difference between the classes.
Battles we have going on here. Let's see here.
So quite a few of these GT3 battles just being interrupted by the P3s that are recovering from moments earlier at the start of this race, or struggling for pace or confidence. As you can see, one of them, that's Dan Stevens, just behind Chris Wacker, getting between them and Craig Foreman, and disrupt Craig a little bit back, opened the gap up, and can see just how much Stevens struggling to make a pass work. The LP3s have a little bit more acceleration, but it is a minute amount. In a lot of cases, it will only draw you alongside the car you're trying to overtake, and you'll be left to try and finish the move under braking, hoping that the GT3 shows a bit of mercy on you and just makes it a bit easier for you. It's entirely up to the GT3s whether they wish to do so or not.
Yeah, there's some areas where you, even in a GT3, you can brake later than the LMP3, so it's always sort of hard to gauge and when to make that move that you have to make sure you get through them. But sometimes it's really hard.
Sometimes it's difficult. Very wide there for Chris Wacker, who is closing up to Brian Anderson as well, but we've definitely picked up track limits for that, and quite significant amounts. With LMU, it's crucial to remember it is the white lines that define the track limits. Even if you keep a couple of wheels on the black and white curb, if they're all 4 wheels are over the white line, it is a violation, and you will very likely pick up those track limit warning points. Meanwhile, a little further in front, Matt Barnby has had an issue this lap. Let's see what's happened to them to drop them out of P4. As you can see, Tom Watson in the background closing up as they come into the Veal chicane. Turns it into the right-hander, picks up the throttle and just loses the rear end. very common mistake, one I've made myself as well, and then has to take to the grass to get going again. Very easy to spin the car again on that grass, so does well to get going without further spins, and then stays off the racing line while they get back up to speed. Loses them a place to Matthias Fusken, unfortunately for them.
So easy through there to just, try and gauge how much throttle you have to put on, because you want to get on it as early as possible, but every now and then it just bites you.
Yeah. Battle in the GT3 field down for P8 between Amelia Jackman and Christian Schlink. Looks like Amelia in the Ferrari just holding on to that P8 for now, but Schlink in Mercedes piling the pressure on.
Well, makes a mistake.
That's a bit wide, but trying to take a tighter line there. Schlink not able to carry the momentum. Also a bit of a battle between Lenson and Grasner as they come up to Cobb's corner. The BMW closing in, shows the nose, but it's a very dangerous spot to make a move. The Aston, though, maybe put off a little bit, runs wide, and the BMW carrying a bit more speed will make that move work, and will take P11 as they head towards Maggots and Beckett's now.
Very interesting livery Lenson has.
So let's just, we've been looking at GT3 a little bit. Let's have a little look to the LMP3, which is spreading out a little bit. A couple more drivers having issues, unfortunately. So it has spread out a little bit, but still, Arisa Carpenter trying to chase down Max Farrell. Their previous lap times were nearly inseparable, only half a tenth between them. But then as they came through to finish the next lap, both of them invalidating. So both of them pushing hard. Both of them have got to be careful. See, multiple laps invalidated from them. So yeah, they do have to be careful not to pick up too many of those track limit points. And looks like a decent Carpenter, maybe it's just had a good run through Maggots and Beckett's, is closed up to just within half a second. How about we go on board with Arisa just to see how they're trying to push on and catch up to Farrell in front.
Yeah, the brakes through there, trying to just get as much, and then coming out of the corners, trying to get as much traction as possible. Farrell gets a better run out of there compared to Dusa here, so gotta fight back.
Yeah, maybe different traction control settings between the two drivers. That is one of the few things the drivers can change sort of setup-wise. Otherwise, it is fixed setup to the base LMU setup, as we call it. Not even allowed to select the CDI setup that the game provides. But yeah, Adusa closed in on the first sector, but just sort of struggled through the Veal chicane, especially on the exit with the traction. But we'll stay on board, see if they're able to close in once again when we get back to Maggots and Beckett's, and continue put some pressure on and think about maybe making a move for second place as Harrison Webb continues to extend the gap out front. It is now over now 12 seconds as they come across the line. Both of them setting valid laps and can have a look half a second quicker for Dusa Carpenter. So even with that dropping back a little bit out of field through club, they've still managed to gain quite a bit of time on the previous lap.
Really strong third sector from Carpenter there. Really strong through Maggots and Beckett's here, right on the back of Farrell. Might have a run up into the Hangar Straight here. I'm so bad with, forgive me if I mess up corner names, I'm so bad with them here.
This is one of the few tracks I actually remember most of them, maybe because it's one of the few tracks I've managed to visit. Adusa closing up into Stowe Corner on the brakes. Now certainly applying the pressure. Max going defensive into the Veal chicane. Of course, this is where Max was very strong last lap around. Seems like, yeah, just has a little bit more confidence, is able to get the power down out of that Ville chicane and pull a little bit of a gap, but doesn't stop Adusa from closing in round the rest of the lap using all of the curb, think slightly over the edge of the curb as they entered Abbey Corner. GT3 recovering from a mistake potentially on the outside there.
Really strong in a village. I think I actually got that one right for once. Wow. This is always the I think this is honestly the most fun part of any kind of racing you do, is always trying to just figure out where the person in front of you is weakest or where they're strongest, and trying to make sure that you maximize where you're strongest so that you can get past them. But Farrell's doing a fantastic job of just he knows where Adusa is strongest, and he's making sure that he compromises her coming out of those areas, so that, and then he's taking the strengths that he has and making sure that he maximizes those. It's the most entertaining part of racing, in my mind, is these little mind games.
I will say these two are losing about 2 seconds a lap currently to Harrison Webb. Interesting thing is, if either of them are fuel saving a bit, I suppose should have paid a little bit more attention while we were on board and had those pedal inputs from Adusa. See if they were fuel saving. Of course, being 2 times fuel usage for sort of every meter that you lift, you're saving twice as much fuel, and the time it takes to put the fuel in isn't halved for having to use twice as much fuel in a race, and so technically it takes even longer to refuel these cars, and so you get even more of an advantage from fuel saving with this 2 times fuel usage. Benji Beams, after their previous issue, by the way, has continued, their drive-through, of course, is still struggling in the GT3 field, is dropping a little bit. We do have Jared Page just in between the leading fight for the GT3 pack. That is Nazarian just in front of them and Ollie Knowles just behind them. Jared Page has been just passing these drivers and then maybe making a little mistake getting past again. Certainly not making things easier, running onto the grass there. Very oddly on the hanger straight. I think it's just going to let Ollie Knowles go and is now being caught up by Dean Smith, who's just behind.
Yeah, that seemed like there was a hardware issue there, because, you know, that's a straight. It's not good to go onto the grass on a straight. Over the curb. You should have taken all the curb.
Yeah, how frustrating this is for the GT3 drivers. They're trying to have their own battle wiggle there for Ollie Knowles through Abbey. Man, these GT3s having their own battle, but constantly having to worry about LMP3s who are a little bit quicker by a couple of seconds, but maybe just struggling for consistency, keep making little mistakes that hold them up and drop them back behind and have to re-overtake. Is just a bit of an awkward situation for everyone involved, but not much can be done unless LMP3 just decided to dive to the pits. Luckily, there's a bit of a difference in fuel usage between the two classes, which will separate them out later in the race. Speaking of which, looking at virtual energy numbers for the GT3 field, of course, no virtual energy in LMP3, and unfortunately don't get any fuel numbers. But as drivers are coming across the line, looking at nearly 4 laps, a bit of fuel saving, and we could see Nazarian and Ollie Knowles maybe go 4 more laps. Otherwise, it will be 3 laps until the GT3s are pitting.
It's like Hagen and Foreman are trying to fuel save. They're about 4% higher than the leaders, but Ben Law has used a lot of fuel, it seems. So I think he's on pace to do the same amount of laps, so that's still all right. But I mean, even if you come into the pits with 2 or 3% left, that's still time saved in the refueling process. So that's something people got to think about.
It is. I
You
mean,
know, you can push us. Go ahead.
what we've seen on Monday, just, that little fraction of difference. Edusa was followed in by another driver 1 second behind. That driver jumped them in the pits by literally a car length. It was so tight, and that was on 1x fuel usage. On 2x, those differences are going to be a little bit more. Well, you're going to see bigger differences, and so it's only going to be more significant than 1%. It's going to be more like 2, 3, maybe even 4% that we're seeing crossfield. Benji Beams continuing to struggle. Is that another mistake coming out of the Veil chicane?
We all have those races, unfortunately. That's just same thing as who was it earlier? Was it Kovacs?
Or Kovacs? Yes. No, Barnby was it?
Barnby, that's right.
Yeah, and
it's just unfortunately he found found how grippy grass is, unfortunately, but
yeah,
like Barnby, but
and also with the way the car span, they was straight sideways across the tarmac, locked to the tires. That'll be quite a bit of a nasty flat spot on them, so which will make things difficult for them. Meanwhile, Dan Stevens getting involved in the GT3 fight for the lead, not making things easier as Ollie Knowles is on a little bit of a charge as these drivers getting ever closer to the pit window. For reference, Nazarian has about 0.5% more virtual energy than Ollie Knowles, so Ollie unlikely to jump Nazarian in the pits, but of course with tire warmers we could see drivers putting new tires on, which could see a difference in strategy in that regard.
Yeah, especially around here. I mean, I know you're not really giving that much heat to the inside, but obviously with 2 times tire wear, that's still going to change. But some people might opt, if they think so, they can only take left sides, and that saves 7 seconds compared to it's 5 seconds compared to 12 seconds, and 7 seconds is a lot of time in these pits phases.
Yeah, especially when it's the lesser used tires that you're changing for 7 seconds. You're going to get less in a benefit than the 5 seconds initially for your more used tires. So it very much is a question of maybe just taking 2 tires, or maybe do take none, try and get track position and hope you can hold on. Mentioned Dan Stevens getting in front. I've noticed him in the runoff area there. He's now fallen back behind these 2 GT3 leaders and will probably be, well, maybe not pestering them later on, because of course pit stops not too far away in the GT3 field. We definitely have a split on the virtual energy. There are drivers who are going to be going an extra lap compared to other portions of the field. Currently best fuel saving, Chris List, who was on only driver to have more than 25% virtual energy at the end of the previous lap. Updates are only at the end of each lap for us, unfortunately. So we'll hopefully get another update right now. And yeah, it's still about 0.5% advantage for Nazarian over Ollie Knowles, who is just trading. And they've got to be thinking of what they do on pit strategy, and maybe if you're Ollie Knowles, maybe you short fill by 1 lap of virtual energy just to get yourself track position, try and eke out the gap, and then so that when you come in for your second pit stop, you are able to stay in front with the lead of the GT3 class.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually. There's definitely going to be a 2 stop for the GTs here, because pitting less than halfway through, unless you're doing some massive fuel saving, which is technically possible, but it's hard to do on a track where most of it is high speed.
Yeah, you do have some of those braking zones where you can kind of fuel save a bit through the Maggots and Beckett section. Usually you're trying to pick up the throttle sort of from one apex to the other, but if you're trying to save a bit, you just let the car coast. Okay, you're technically losing a little bit of time, but the fuel save could be worth it, especially if it allows you to go an extra lap. I mean, think if Ollie Knowles is able to go an extra lap compared to Nazarian, that could allow them, 1 quick lap in the overcut, and it could be a position gained. But yes, we will probably see these drivers in at the end of this lap, not unless they've massively fuel saved on this in lap. And so it will be down to the pit strategies. Does Ollie Knowles do something a little bit different to try and take the lead here?
Yeah, especially with 2 stops, you could sit there and be like, all right, maybe I know the person in front of me is struggling with tires. They're going to take tires, so I won't. I'll get the track position. But then, you hamper yourself a little bit into the race, and you got to take tires for that second pit stop. Josef's got an early pit. That's good for him. It's right in.
Yeah, but it does mean you have to have your strategy sorted by the time you come into the pits. You can't sort of wait in the pits to sort it to some extent. And of course, if other drivers from behind are coming in as well, you don't want a driver coming into the pits just as you're trying to leave your pit box. Could make things a bit awkward. BMW Chris Wacker coming in. We have had drivers continue on past, by the way. Matt Haig and Craig Foreman, Brian Anderson have all continued for one extra lap. Got an LP3 car coming in. That's Benji Beams coming into the pits quite early on. The LP3 should be able to extend far enough to go for an extra thing. So Ollie Knowles well down in pit lane. That is a difference on the pit strategies. Let me just try and get some numbers for you. Ollie Knowles, a 37.8 second pit stop. Nazarian coming out with a 50-second pit stop. So all 4 tires for Nazarian. Maybe they feel like they didn't quite have the pace as things stood to hold on to the lead for the race, and decided that taking tires, doing something a little bit different, would be their best bet of winning this race.
Yep, this is going to be close, especially near the end of this race when they have to do that second pit stop. Knowles is probably going to have to take tires at that point, because I don't imagine on 2 times tire wear you're going to be down to basically rims at that point, especially around here.
Though if we think the drivers came out of the pits with 34 minutes remaining, so they went about 25 minutes, which is quite typical for a GT3 car. That would mean there's less than 10 minutes in that final stint. Is it worth new tires for what's going to be no more than 5 laps at most?
If we didn't have tire warmers, I would say no, obviously.
Absolutely
but with
not.
Tire warmers, yeah, absolutely not, exactly. But with tire warmers, it throws that factor in. It's like if you can, it still takes a little bit of a lap to get them up, but you have so much grip going into Maggots and Beckett's that if the person that you're fighting comes out still behind you, you can hold them off through Maggots and Beckett's and then still have the speed to come down. It's going to take a lot of. It's a mental game.
Just as the confidence. The drivers that carried on, Kevin Lenson was the 4th driver to carry on for an extra pit stop, is into the pits. I can't imagine any of them jumping in front of Ollie Knowles. Kevin Hunter. Kevin Hunter also yet to pit. I thought he came out in between Ollie Knowles and Hosfep, but that's not the case. He is the 5th car to pit on this lap. So trying to see now, Nazarian catching up to Ben Law, who has jumped in front. Ben Law, same pit stop time as Ollie Knowles, actually 1 second longer. So a little bit slow in the pit stop. Maybe that's Ben Law was using a bit more fuel, as you mentioned earlier, Tyler, than Ollie Knowles, and that's cost them a second in the pit stops. Might not be too crucial for them come the end of the race, but for some of the closer battles like Nazarian and Ollie Knowles, those little things could be crucial.
Yep. And while we were talking of Max Farrell had actually just spun in, and Carpenter has taken 2nd place.
Well, let's have a look at that
LMP3 field
right now, because I just noticed that on the timing screen. Coming into the Vale chicane, as I would say, hardest braking zone of the track. Has he just ran in a little too deep? No, he's fine on the entry. Is it the exit, as we've seen a couple of times? It is indeed. There goes 2nd place. Bye-bye to Max Farrell. Hello, Adisa Carpenter.
Yeah, unfortunately, just the same thing we've seen from a lot of people. It's just they're trying to get on the power too early, and then, it's especially with the 2 times tire wear, one lap, it could feel great, and the next lap, because you've taken 2 times the tire wear, it feels a lot different.
I was about to say, here's Kovacs closing up to Alex Wood, but they're saying we're getting to the halfway mark. Maybe an undercut here for Kovacs on Alex Wood. Try and get a bit of track position. We'll have to see how that pans out. Let's head back to our GT3 battle. Nazarian, very important here. They've got the new tyres on. They're going to have the extra grip, but they're not going to be of any use if they're just stuck behind a McLaren and unable to close in on Ollie Knowles.
Exactly. Every single second that Hosmep is right behind Ben Law and not passing him is playing into Knowles' hands.
It is indeed. How about we jump on board with Hovsep. Just trying to see this tire advantage. You'd hope if they're not quite able to make full use of the tire advantage, they're maybe at least saving some fuel to sort of offset the time that they're losing behind Ben Law, who you can see massively pushing through Maggots and Beckett's, using all of the curb on the exit through into Chapel and onto the Hanger Straight in the slipstream. Not closing up too much. I think this will
Maybe
be...
that's why Ben...
this will be a key difference here that's not going to help Nazarian. Ben Law has a 1 km/h advantage over Ben Law in top speed that we've seen so far this race. So, that's just going to make it, the slipstream will help negate a bit of that for Nazarian, but it's not going to be enough of a, it's going to struggle to get themselves alongside to make a move, even with some slipstream.
The classic Macca being really strong in a straight line. Whoa, he went for it there. Jeez, that was, for lack of a better word, ballsy.
Yeah,
which is costing a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's something that Nazarian has to be careful of, is to not get caught out. Having the new tyres, yes, you're going to have the grip in corner speed, doesn't mean you can just drive through the car in front of you. If they're going slower, you have to go get around them, which isn't always the easiest. And yeah, it's certainly costing them. They are coming up to a back marker. Not quite sure who that is in front of them. Hopefully won't
I believe it's an Aston, so it's Grasner.
Grasner in the Aston. Hopefully won't hold them up too much, especially for Ben Law. Can't afford to lose extra momentum out of a corner, as that could be what gives the opportunity to Nazarian. Look how close Nazarian is on the exit of Maggots and Beckett's. But really, slipstream here for the McLaren could be helping. As you can see, Nazarian starting to close and close. Will he go for the dive into Stowe corner? He's thinking, but he's trying to get the nose alongside. Grasner goes for a spin, but the McLaren holding it around the outside will hold on to second place for now. Nazarian definitely putting the pressure on, looking to the inside of the Ville chicane. Careful not to put that nose in where it doesn't belong and cause an incident. A penalty could be devastating for Nazarian.
That was one way for Grasner to adhere to blue flags. Grasner's struggling a little bit. That Aston must be a handful around here.
Yeah, while we've been watching that battle, the pit sequence for the LMP3s has started. Most cars have pitted. Carpenter, Fusk and Barnby going an extra lap compared to everyone else. Just so obviously saving a little bit of fuel in that first stint. And we'll hopefully have a shorter pit stop time. I can't tell you, look down the pit times. Harrison Webb, 49 seconds. So that looks like a tire change. Kovacs and Alex Wood, only 33 seconds in the pit stops. So much shorter pit stops there, obviously not taking tires. Ben Myatt, 29-second pit stop. That's very short there. So seeing quite a few differences in the pit times. And that is just going to shake out the P3 field just a little bit as I go through their one pit stop cycle as Nazarian continue to push, getting the better, track limits getting the better of them out of Cup's corner. Hopefully he isn't too close to getting a drive-through.
Ooh, might have got another one there through that curb also. It's very easy to get it through a little bit here. It's gonna run this time though. Looks closer than last lap, and Law doesn't have the advantage of having a back marker for toe also. This might be the move.
Law
Use those
opting for the inside this time. Nazarian not quite able to get far enough alongside. Both of them skating the track limits on the exit. As Nazarian had a look last lap into the Veal chicane, is having another look this time, but again, not close enough. Gotta be careful with that nose. Just gets sort of a little bit worried with Nazarian showing the nose there. Worried that's gonna lead to disaster. Just look how much more confident Nazarian is in Abbey corner. Able to take a slightly better line, carry much more speed, has allowed them to get the run alongside, sends it to the inside of Village, gets the car slowed up for the apex, and blocks Ben Law there on the apex. Able to take second place, and now can go about chasing Ollie Knowles, who is 10 seconds up the road.
That's key. That was an 8-second gap when Hosbip came out of the pits, and now it's 10 seconds. So he's lost 2 seconds behind Law. That's crucial.
Good look at replay here of Max Farrell, who's dropped down the order a little bit, coming through farm corner, just where we see the move from Ben Law, gets into the back. I believe that's Matthias Fuskin again to the back of both of them, going for significant spins, and that's going to be 8 dead, or very flat-spotted tyres at least, for those two drivers. Both of them continue on in 5th and 6th of the LMP3 field.
Yeah, that looked like it was just unfortunate timing in the Village. It looks like Max was trying to set up a move, and as he was trying to set up the move, it looks like Fuchsen braked, and it caught Max off guard. Yeah,
Farrell has taken new tyres, by the way, in the P3 field. Those that have taken new tyres, Harrison Webb, Max Farrell, Tom Watson, and Dan Stevens has maybe taken 2 tyres. He's got a 43-second pit stop, so he's either taken all 4 tyres and taken a bit less fuel than all the other drivers, or he's only taken 2 tyres. But it does seem to be for a lot of our drivers that they're going for either all 4 tyres or no tyres at all. Not very many 2 tyre strategies, at least from what we can tell on display.
Very interesting that the LMP3s are changing tires here. They must really have some really bad tire wear around here, because as we know, the LMP3 tires are very, very, very durable. Even on 2 times fuel, it takes a lot of time spent on those tires for them to actually start to feel bad. So it must be a lot of heat going into these tires around here.
Yeah, I mean, even on 2X, you could run an 80-minute race around here without them feeling too bad. But of course, with the tyre warmers, it's really the cold tyres on the LMP3 that hold you back from changing tyres. Those tyre warmers, you know, is a little bit of advantage for new tyres. Whether there's high tyre wear or not, there's always an advantage. It's just whether it's enough. With a lot of high-speed corners, so maybe it does just add up around Silverstone lap. Though, is it worth the cost of track position? We've just seen how long it took Nazarian to retake second place from Ben Law. How much time, you could say, he lost. Luckily, as those two were battling, they weren't going much slower than Ollie Knowles, so they didn't actually lose too much time. But it's certainly time that Nazarian could have been gaining on Ollie Knowles, closing that 10-second gap. We're looking at Brian Anderson and Kevin Lenson battling for P5 here. A BMW fight in the GT3 field. Ben Law, by the way, has just come into the pits, so they have. So quite an early pit stop for them. Curious as to why that decision was. They had a full pit stop the first time round of 38 seconds. So
I wonder if he's decided that since he couldn't hold Hosbep behind, he's going to take tires and fuel to the end to see if maybe the offset of pit strategy will give him an advantage later on.
Potentially 31-second pit stop for Ben Law at this sort of different strategy. It's quite an odd pit stop time. It feels a little bit long for approximately 10 minutes of fuel. Of course, Ben Law was had the sort of highest consumption of everyone. So yeah, maybe just playing a little bit safe as Lenson with the run here gets to the inside of Brian Anderson, and it should be moved done. Is a little bit wide, which might give Brian a run towards Ville Chicane, but as we've seen between Ben Law and Nazarian, it's a risky move to try and make, and yeah, that Brian not quite able to take advantage of it. Unfortunately, I don't have Lenson's pit stop time, so don't have definitive evidence he's on new tyres, but I would assume he is, given Brian Anderson definitely is on new tyres with their 51-second pit stop.
Yeah, I'm always for little like wacky little strategy calls, like what Law's doing, where he's like he thought of something, and I'm always for those type of things. It's gotten me. I've come from 13th to 5th in Le Mans races, which is one of the hardest tracks to gain places if you're that far back, but by just pitting out of sync of everyone and then getting into my own groove.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things with LMU is that there are different strategy options you can take. You don't just have to default to a standard strategy. You can try different options, and okay, one strategy might be better than the other, but there's usually not too big of a difference between them. They're close about, where a bit of driving, bit of luck with traffic could be all the difference between which strategy ends up being better than the other. Which is great to see. Good to see some of the drivers sort of exploring that. As yes, sometimes just doing something different on strategy can be the difference between winning a race and missing out. Came to Christian Schlink here. He's still trying to chase down Amelia in the Ferrari. Does have a couple of pesky LMP3s around him still. It's Johansson making their way through the GT3 field for position, as of course they lost a lap from that unfortunate game crash before we even got started in the race, having qualified P2 again. Very unfortunate for them. Jared Page also making their way through, sort of struggling a bit throughout this race. Bit of a battle. Max Farrell, after the mistake that we've seen while they were trying to fend off P2 from Medusa Carpenter, spinning out of the Ville Chicane. They've now caught up to Alex Wood for P4, of course. Max with the new tyres closing in quite quickly. We can just see here, effectively 1.2 seconds quicker than Alex Wood last lap. This hopefully won't be too difficult of a move, but we've seen with Nazarian and Ben Law again, just because you have new tyres doesn't mean it's going to be a cakewalk to take the position.
It's on a charge, just to make sure that it doesn't get that dude's head too much. Make sure he ties up the mood correctly. He might have it here. I think he's going to be close enough with the tire advantage. I think he's going to be able to get him here. Takes the inside, goes right through, and he's unfortunately got a GT3 car in his way, but I think he's going to use that advantage. Oh no, they lost a little bit of time behind that GT3 car actually.
Next to the inside of the GT3, but again, that sort of not much pace difference between the cars makes the overtake quite awkward through the Ville Chicane. They do get it done. Alex Wood looking to the inside of the of Club Corner, has to back out of the move, and because of that, they don't have the momentum down the Hamilton straight now to make any move into Abbey Corner. You really have to set the moves up in the LP3 cars. Goes for a dive into Village, runs it in deep, I think maybe having a bit of a lockup, and now has to try again on the inside into the loop. This is costing him quite a bit of time. Look at how far Farrell is up the road already, and that little battle that they had with Farrell cost him a bit of time, allowing Tom Watson to close in, who, remember, is also on new tyres. Curious to see here if Tom Watson is going to find it just as easy as Max Farrell did, or if Alex Wood will be able to put on a bit more of a defence against Watson.
It seems like the new tires around Silverstone is actually a very smart move. Even in these LMP3s. It's just those tire warmers, you know, you have to heat them up. You don't have to spend essentially 5 to 6 laps trying to heat them up.
We can see, of course, Alex Wood was in that battle, but Tom Watson 2.5 seconds quicker last lap around. Interestingly, Nazarian into the pits in the GT3 field had 30% virtual energy, could have gone 4 more laps if they wanted to. They've pitted a little bit earlier than necessary. Wonder if that's for traffic reasons. Tom Watson trying to replicate the move that Max Farrell made on the inside into Stowe corner on Alex Wood, and it looks job done and dusted. No GT3 car to make it a little bit more difficult, so Alex Wood not having any chance to fight back.
I think Hosvep has seen what Ben has done and been like, you know what, I'm going to try something different too because I lost so much time behind him.
Nazarian now coming out of the pits. One of the earlier drivers to take their second pit stop. It's a 30-second pit stop. I'm wondering, let me see, virtual energy. Well, we'll have to give it a lap to see what their virtual energy is up to now. But they've gone from 30% coming into the pits, take away 7.5% for a lap, and we'll see, and then we'll see what the difference is when they cross the line next time around. How much they...
He's come out with 70, I want to say it was 75% VE. Ben Law is at 74% currently. So Ben Law took a little bit more VE compared to Hosvep.
Yeah, an important thing with these races is when it comes to your final pit stop, you don't need a full tank of fuel and energy to get to the end of the race. It's important to calculate how much you need correctly. You don't want to underfill. If you underfill a little bit, you can usually fuel save. This is an ambitious move from the LMP3 there, Jared Page, sticking the nose up the inside of Farm Corner. Luckily, Nazarian seen it coming and left in the space, but that could have ended in catastrophe if the GT3 was turning in for their normal racing line. Maybe it was just the camera angle that made that look very much closer than it needed to be, but luckily they do get through. But yeah, it's important to get your fuel calculations right. If you do have a little bit under, you can fuel save to it. If you're too much under, you might be taking an extra pit stop, which is very costly, of course. And for every, of course, percent you go over what you need, that's just time wasted sat stationary in pit lane, not going anywhere when you could have been driving on out. Maybe loses you track position on track. And yeah, could be a few positions. If it's a whole lap difference, which in this case is about 7-8% in the GT3 field, it could be interesting, as Ollie Knowles has had an issue. I think this was with potentially Dean Smith, who was passing at the time.
Oh no. What happens here?
So into Abbey corner. Oh, just loses the rear end through Abbey, pushing on those old tyres perhaps for Ollie Knowles. Losing the rear end through Abbey corner, going for a spin, and that's really going to hinder them. They still hold the lead now. Of course, Nazarian has already made their second pit stop, and that could be the difference that allows Nazarian to jump out in front.
Dean is safe from blame this time.
So it looks like Hovsep took 45% energy. Does a 30-second pit stop sound long for 45% virtual energy?
It seems a little bit.
I think Hovsep, the reason why they've gone for the early second stop is they've put a yes, second set of new tires on. We have no tire limitations. It's not like some of the series we've had previously where you might be limited to, let's say, like 8 tires, what we had for the Weekender series last season. So, you know, the drivers, if they want new tires, they can have them. But, yeah, definitely Nazarian going on the offensive as Lenson now in for their second pit stop.
Ryan's in third right now, but he seems to be Foreman's catching him. I wonder. I don't. Brian did change tires, so I wonder if he's just struggling with the grip at the end of now, because he seems to be struggling a little bit for pace. Though I could be wrong. I haven't really been paying that much attention. This could just be Foreman having really good pace at the end of this race.
Let's see, Foreman nearly 6 tenths quicker than Anderson last lap. There is a LMP3 car around them. That's Jarrett Page making their way through. Does look like Craig Foreman just having a bit more pace at this stage of the race. Let's have a little look at virtual energy. Craig Foreman has about 1 lap extra worth of energy over Anderson. So even if Craig does have a bit more pace but isn't able to make a move, he should get a lap of clear air to try and make an overcut work. And of course then we'll need less virtual energy at the pit stop. Should be then thus shorter pit stop, which should help them gain that track position. Moment in the LMP3 field. Kovacs with a mistake. This at Stowe Corner.
I should just stop thinking about the LMP3s and stop clicking back on, because that's the second time I've clicked back on and an LMP3 has been spun when I've come to look at them.
Looks like incident. Need to go back a little bit further, but we'll catch this here. One of the BMWs. Which BMW is this?
It's Lenzen. He's just come out of the pits, I believe.
Yeah, good point. Going into the right-hander here. They just have moments by themselves.
Oh, okay then.
Wasn't the greatest camera angle for it. Well, see if we can see it again. So, Lenzen. See if we can get a different camera angle that maybe shows us a little bit more of what's going on as they come into the corner. So Kovzak has, both of them have slides. Kovzak overcorrects, which sends them heavier into the barrier. Lenzen just lets the car sort of spin round a bit more. So the car comes to a rest in the runoff and they're able to carry on. Not too much time loss. But yeah, that's not ideal for both of them.
And that's Kovacs out. I wonder if the car died. That's unfortunate. He was doing really well. Up into third, I believe.
Benji Beams coming into the pits. They've already taken their second pit stop. Or they don't need a second pit stop in the LMP3s. But yeah, it's a drive-through penalty. Having already received one at the start of the race. So yeah, not great for them. Let's go back to this battle in the GT3. Of course, the car's quite a bit more spread out at the moment as we're getting into the race, and still the final pit stops to go. We should see these drivers carry on for one more lap, though it seems like Craig Foreman has just dropped back ever so slightly on Anderson and is actually deciding to pull the undercut here.
He's on 18% compared to 11% from Anderson too. That's a very... I almost want to say he almost could have made it to the end. I think he's playing it absolutely 100% safe.
Oh, it's... According to the calculations here, that was only enough to go 2.5 laps. So I think it would have been a couple of laps short. So,
yeah, it just updated for me.
Yeah, I think that was the right call. Yeah, I think that is the right call. But as going back to getting the calculations right for your final pit stop, if he's put in too much fuel, this undercut won't work on Anderson. So needs to have got the math right, and Anderson
Put in
needs to get the
40%.
maths right himself to not get undercut by Craig here.
He's at 40%, and to compare, Podsmap is at 40% also. oNiD, interestingly, is at 30%. I wonder if you took a gamble on making sure that he might have only just enough fuel to get to the end.
Well, here is Nazarian, who's coming up behind Brian Anderson. Won't be too worried, as Anderson will be pitting at the end of this lap. But all he knows is quite a bit up the road. It's about 15 seconds up the road. But yeah, he might have short filled. I'll get a little calculation at the end of this lap that will help us figure out. So all he knows, 27.5% as they came across line. We're seeing about 7.5 as the average usage per lap. So that's 3.5 laps.
That's just enough to get to the end, because I think it's going to either 29 or 30 laps.
It all depends where Harrison Webb, the leader in LMP3 is, how many laps they do exactly, and if they lap Ollie Knowles an extra time. But here is Ollie Knowles. They're coming through Stowe Corner. You can see in the track map top right, the diamond denotes the leader of the race. So Harrison Webb coming up to Abbey, a bit in front of Ollie Knowles. So there isn't going to be, Ollie Knowles isn't going to be lapped an extra time. I think when Harrison Webb crosses the line, it will be 2 laps to go. Thus, 2 laps to go for Ollie Knowles. I think he's done the math correctly.
Very correctly. That's exactly how much fuel he has, I believe. That's a good race from him all around then.
Mahagan and Anderson fighting. It looks like Foreman hasn't made the undercut work, as Foreman, see here, actually quite a bit further. Sorry, reading my numbers on. There is Brian Anderson with Craig Foreman about a second back, so that undercut not working. Let me look at pit times between them. Pretty much identical lap times between the two of them. So I'm interested to see what the virtual energy is between the two of them.
BJ is on 5% less VE. So he took 5%, probably about 5% less VE.
Well, they had a lap difference before the pit stop.
That's true.
So they've taken very similar amounts. Going back to getting the math right on the final pit stop could be the deciding factor. You'd have to say, Craig Foreman, looking retrospective to Ollie Knowles, who has 1 lap less than everyone, everyone's put in a lap extra worth of fuel, and it's, cost Foreman a position. I'm not sure exactly how much fuel Matt Hagan is on. Matt has also done the math correctly, and is behind Ben Law. If they don't need to save any virtual energy, they will, which they shouldn't do, looking at their numbers.
He's on 20%.
Yeah.
He should get to the end.
Yeah, it's about 15% for 2 laps. So, yeah. Hagan, if he can find a little bit of pace in these final couple of laps, could maybe put a bit of pressure on Ben Law for position. Let me just bring up the GT3 times. It is quite spread out in the P3. The only sort of semi-close battle is Tom Watson behind Max Farrell. Fuskin isn't too far behind Alex Wood either, but we'll see if those close up. Currently 15-second gap between Knowles and Nazarian. So that battle was ever so close at the start of the race. Hasn't gone the way Nazarian. I think maybe changing tires once in this race was a good call. twice, though. Hasn't seemed to work out. And remember, all he knows had that spin, so could have been an extra 5-10 seconds up the road.
Yeah, I think if Hosbep didn't change tires, it would have been actually a very close battle for the lead, unfortunately. I mean, you don't know that someone's going to spin, and you don't know that they're... So you kind of just take what you got. So that's unfortunate for him, but... What do you say?
Yes, this is the closest battle on track. Harrison Webb at the lead of the LMP3s has started the final lap. They're coming onto the hangar straight now, so I'll switch to them in about a minute to see them finish the race. You can see both the BMWs are getting a little bit wide on that exit curb of the loop. Just settles the car ever so slightly. Foreman in the slipstream. Anderson going a little bit defensive. It'll be interesting to see what the lap time difference is between these two cars. You can see different lines through the field. Foreman taking a tighter line, but it just compromises their exit slightly, allows Anderson to pull an extra car length as they go on to their final lap of the race. The difference between their last lap times, just 0.2 in favour of Foreman. Foreman has a little bit more pace. Is it enough, though, to make a move?
Needs a lot through Maggots and Beckett's here. Might have a run up on the hangar straight. I don't know. He's a little far behind for a move. Unless the slipstream helps him a lot here. Lost a little bit on the exit of...
Is looking to the inside, but not close enough to make a move. Meanwhile, coming through Waycock corner, it's Harrison Webb, staying pole position by 0.03 of a second, leading the entire race, will take the victory. Let's see, Ollie Knowles coming through the field now. Started a little further back. Let's just see those positions again. Last year, started in P3 in that GT3 field. Has had good pace through the race, going different strategy, not changing tires throughout the race. Despite a spin in Abbey Corner, it's paid off. They have taken the win ahead of Nazarian. We have a battle to the line, though. Tom Watson has closed up on Max Farrell, though is just going to run out of time as they come across the line. Just 0.2 separating those two across the line. Fuskin putting on a late charge here of the race, closing in on Alex Wood, who you can see just in front for 5th place. Gained 0.7 of a second last lap around, but again, running out of time. We'll have to sell for P6 behind Alex Wood in P5. Let's go back to this GT3 battle. Foreman trying, you can see the different lines, trying to set up a better exit. Anderson quite wide on the exit there. Foreman tightening the line to see if they can get the nose to the inside. Ultimately, it just unsettles the car and allows Brian Anderson to hold on to P5. Craig Foreman will take P6. And that is most of our cars finished and across the line now. Yeah, just a couple more drivers to come across the line. Chris Wacker finishing in GT3 field, as well as Matt Barnby and Benji Beams. And just so you know, Johansson, from being a lap down at the start, did get ahead of the entire GT3 field. Not an easy feat with how little of a pace difference there is between the two classes. But that is our race done, and now we can have a look through the results. So it is Harrison Webb that takes the victory. Hevadusa Carpenter recovering to second after a poor run through T1, dropped them a couple of places. Max Farrell held on to P3 ahead of, after a spin while being in second place. They held on ahead Tom Watson, who was pushing to the end, nearly getting close to a podium. Alex Wood being P5 ahead of Matthias Fuskin in P6. Ben Myatt taking a respectable P7 ahead of Matt Barnby, who's struggled. A couple of spins for them brought them down to P8. Dan Stevens in P9, finishing a lap down with Dean Smith in P10. Outside the top 10, we then had Jarrett Page in 11th. Daniel Johansson just missed out on pole position, but unfortunately a game crash would see them start the race a lap down. So very unfortunate for them. Not a result they deserved at all. Benji Beam's couple of drive-through penalties would see them finish last in our LMP3 field. And Kovacs, a mistake through Stowe Corner, a big snap of oversteer that they overcorrected, sent them into the wall and out of the race. GT3 field then, Ollie Knowles from third on the grid taking the win, beating out Nazarian despite a spin. Nazarian going for a very aggressive, changing tyres twice in the race, didn't work out for them, with Ben Law taking the final podium position. Matt Hagan in P4, with Brian Anderson holding on ahead of Craig Foreman towards the later stages of the race. Kevin Lenson coming from the back of the grid, came up to P7, so not too bad of a race from them. Chris Wacker would be in P8. Emilia Jacquemin in 9th, and Christian Schlink in that battle, not able to get in front of the Ferrari, would be the last car in the top 10. Both of them finishing a lap down, as well as Ryan Davies in P11. Kevin Hunter and Fiona Grasner finishing 12th, 13th at 2 laps down. So Tyler, we're now halfway through the series. Certainly a couple of interesting races, good battles throughout that race, and a couple of drivers struggling, especially with traction. That Ville chicane catching quite a few of the LMP3s out.
Yeah, it's definitely so hard to tell, especially with 2 times tire wear, how much grip you're going to have into a corner every now, every single time you go through it. It's kind of a guessing game every now and then.
It can be indeed. You can feel comfortable all race long, and then just one lap the car drops out from underneath you and leaves you puzzled as to what caused the spin. But that's just the difficulty of the prototypes at times. We see similar situations with the P2s on the Monday series. But yes, next time, as we go into the second half of the season, we are heading to Le Mans, the Circuit de la Sarthe, long straights, which will take quite a while in the GT3s and LMP3s. Might hopefully make traffic a little bit easier. But then, of course, the Porsche curves, the S's at the start of the lap, great sequences of corners to challenge the drivers. The LMP3s will be hoping not to get stuck behind the GT3s through there. But yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see how that plays out. And of course, strategy will be a little bit different. Can the LMP3s do a one-stop? The long Mulsanne straight, even while broken up by 2 chicanes, does drink a lot of fuel. You also have the run to Indianapolis from Mulsanne. Will they be able to one-stop? Will they have to fuel save to make it work? The GT3s will be on an even more certain two-stop strategy. It'll be interesting to see how those strategy games play out. Not as much tyre wear as we've seen here at Silverstone, though, that's for sure. The straights being kind and gentle on the tyres. But yeah, before we head, how are you feeling, Tyler, as we're looking to Le Mans next week? What are you thinking of for that round?
I definitely think it's going to be interesting. It's I've never actually driven the LMP3 at Le Mans, so it should be. I don't know how much extra speed they can carry on the straights compared to the GT3s. Or I know obviously through Porsche curves they're going to carry a lot of speed, but if you catch GT3 in there, there's nothing really much you can do. There's barely any room to get through there with another GT3. So.
And while you can see like LMP2s and hypercars making moves on GT3s through the Porsche curves, there's a couple of spots. Do the LMP3s have enough pace difference to make a move like that? I would say it's unlikely, so it'll be even more difficult, lose more time stuck behind there if they in those situations. Whether they'll be unlucky or not to see that, we will have to wait and see till next week. But of course, between now and then, we have more great racing at oNiD. Tomorrow, we have our iRacing Club Challenge. Unfortunately, no stream tomorrow. Aiden's PC kicking the dust means we are missing next week, but they should be back next week if Aidan can get his new PC set up. But of course, sign-ups, I believe, are still open for that if you want to take part. So if you're interested in iRacing, with the MX-5s, of course, a free car with the base subscription, make sure you can sign up on the SimGrid page, as well as for the ACC series on Sunday. Back in the game, our first ACC series for a few seasons. That has been quite an interesting season, quite good fighting, some strategy options at play too, from what I've read from some of the drivers talking to. So that's been a good series. You can join us on Sundays for that. I believe sign-ups, again, still open for that. Then on Monday, we have our other Le Mans Ultimate, our main series, the OLMS series with the new unrestricted LMP2 cars alongside GT3 cars. Is a difficult race at Monza for them, but next week they will be heading to Spa for the 90-minute double point round. How will that affect strategy? You'll have to tune in on Monday to find out when Bem and Tom Towsend will be taking you through that. And then on Tuesday, we have our Assetto Corsa installment, the Audi TT Trophy. They'll be heading to Zolder next week. Round the chicanes, a lot of high-speed action, a lot of chaos at Watkins Glen yesterday. How will they fare through all the chicanes, jumping over the curbs? That should be quite entertaining to watch. 3 15-minute sprint races, the third of which being a reverse grid. Pushed past to use as well. Does make for some great entertaining racing. So make sure you join me and Aidan then again on Tuesday, before me and Tyler join you for round 4 at Le Mans next week for the Sim Hound Academy Cup. But that is it for me and Tyler today. Any final words before we do go, Tyler?
Oh, pretty much said everything that needed to be said.
There you go. Make sure you tune in throughout next week for our streams and join us on our Discord and on SimGrid to get notifications. Of course, we're not too far away from the end of the season. We'll not be jumping into another season till next year, but we will have some social races throughout December. So plenty of racing to get involved with if you're not as interested in committing to a full season. Make sure you join our Discord and SimGrid to get notified of what those socials are when we do announce them. But yeah, until next time, thank you all very much for joining us. Hope you all enjoyed the racing. Hopefully, we'll see you next week when our streams return. But until then, take care, have a good rest of your week and weekend, everyone. We'll see you next time. Good night.